gone incognito.
Welcome back, friends. Unless, of course, this is your first time hearing my voice, in which case you should go and watch the first 2 parts so that this video makes any sort of sense at all. Don't worry, you can do it. You're stronger than me. Shameless plugging of my mediocre content withstanding, let's get back in an hour, and by hour I mean my, journey through every single Invader Zim comic. Last we left off on the first part of a 4-issue story arc. Zim, upon surviving several assassination attempts from Gur, discovers that Gur has been infected with a virus called Protocol Virooz Omega. We were left on the notion that Zim is going to have to go inside of Gur's head to destroy the virus in person, for some reason. So let's not waste any more time and see where this story arc takes us from here.
Sometimes I'm afraid to find out what's going on in that insane head of yours.
Thanks for the scan! Thanks Virooz into oblivion!
Gur's head looks about how you would expect. But more importantly, we get an unironic, "You're probably wondering how I got into this situation" scene. And it really doesn't take all that long to find out how he did get into this situation, so it's just kind of a waste of time and a weird way to open the comic, but whatever. I actually do really like the way that Gur's mind is designed. It's really creative and wonderfully colorful and bizarre. And I know everything is supposed to look pixely because digital, but to me it just looks like they did it with like a square brush or something. I'm not sure, but either way I guess it's a neat effect, even if I think they could have pushed it a little bit further. On a different note, we have confirmation that Gur is most certainly an iPad kid, since he appears to have Minecraft mobs in his head, as if there was any doubt. Let's hope Zim can get out of here before he has to witness Elsagate. Anyway, things get more interesting when Zim meets the error correction software, Hawk, the Urkin scientist responsible for developing the original Sur unit programming. Of course, it's actually just his downloaded personality or whatever, it's not the actual physical Hawk. But get this, this guy is such a genius that he programmed himself to be able to grow older and even be able to feel pain, which Zim was actually quite justified in calling him out on. He's an artist, okay? And there's nothing more artistic than being both pointless and inconvenient.
Comically large.
This is just a neat idea. I always appreciate what little bits of lore regarding the Urkin Empire that we actually get. But anyway, even though Hawk doesn't want to kill the virus, since it's the only thing inside of Gur that actually works, Zim demands that he help anyway, and he instantly complies with no resistance. Artist moment. Throughout their journey, the location that stood out to me the most was Gur's like stack. It's basically a large catalog of Gur's feelings on basically everything. Is this something that all Sur units have? Was it maybe something they're supposed to use to catalog info, since that is literally their primary function? But Gur is so warped that the only data he can gather is just like emojis? I doubt it's intentional, but I'd like to think that's the case because that's really cool. Zim decides to check what's behind his door, and we don't see what's behind there, but we do know that he does not want to talk about it. The mystery of what's behind this door is actually pretty interesting given that we already have numerous implications that Gur actually hates Zim. I'm pretty sure there's some popular fan theory that says that Gur is purposefully sabotaging the missions out of hatred for Zim. And while I wouldn't go that far, I don't think Gur is functional enough to do that. There is one episode that might give that impression. Sorry guys, a quick interjection here. This is editing me here. I went onto TV Tropes to find the Gur is sabotaging the missions theory, so I could like put a little visual of it in the video. And I went down this rabbit hole of all of these fan theories that are listed here, and I just have to share some of my favorites, if you don't mind. If you don't care about this part, you can just click the timestamp or whatever, but trust me, you are not going to want to miss this. Dib grows up to be Buzz Lightyear. Zim is secretly best friends with the tallest. Did Zim make this theory? It's all happening in real life, sort of. I just have to like read this one out in its entirety because I don't understand this one. But the reason we know nothing about it is because it's not happening on Earth. During Zim's long trip to Earth, he and Gur bonded in a more than just friends way. Excuse me? Then due to the way Gur was built, he fell apart. What? The grief broke Zim's mind and he started hallucinating that Gur was still functional, but also hated him to avoid being forced to suffer such grief again. That's why humans are such idiots and how Zim and the Tallest are still in contact. It's all in his mind. To expand on this, the Invader Zim universe is the real world and we're the show. This Troper's mom, who's never seen the show, thought this. Can someone please explain what any of that meant? Zim is autistic. Well, this one is just canon. One or more of the crew working on the show suffers from obsessive-compulsive disorder. Well, that's targeted. Professor Membrane is Dr. Robotnik. Dib and Gaz's mother is Tallest Miyuki? This isn't a theory, this is just like a fanfiction. Zim, Red, and Purple have a vague three-way relationship? Drake is Dib, Josh is Zim, Megan is Gaz. Hey Dib, wanna make a wish? I wish I was Drake Bell. The characters are at least indirectly implants from the characters of Death Note. Zim is Light, a megalomaniac who is the protagonist. Dib is L, the eccentric yet lovable detective antagonist. Gur, Misa's implant, is the dumb sidekick who doesn't listen to the master. Mikami is Mini Moose, and the Tallest are the Shinigami. Dib is a stoner, and Zim actually is a human. Zim is Jar Jar Binks reincarnated. Dib will eventually meet a girl who will secretly fall madly in love with him, and this girl will most likely want to be a writer and use her writing as an excuse for why she's following him around. This is just another fanfiction. Okay, that's enough of that. Anyway, back to the episode about Gur. In Gur Goes Crazy and stuff, Zim gets sick of Gur consistently screwing up everything, so he changes his focus settings to the highest they can possibly go, which somehow makes the literal gumball brain functional. This backfires on Zim because Gur is so confident that he actually identifies Zim as a threat to the mission and tries to kill him, which results in this exchange.
Gur, you were my servant once, remember?
Yes, I didn't like it.
Up until this point, this story had really been giving the impression that we were going to go into this more, which would have been super neat. The whole first issue makes a recurring mention of how Zim is not nice enough to Gur, almost like it was supposed to be like some sort of starting theme or something. But no, like I said, the story stops being about Gur by the end of this issue, so it just reads as like really weird that there was such a focus on him, only for there to be no payoff. Anyway, I digress. For as consistent as this series is, I guess anything could have been behind that door.
Your thoughts on Zim and Dib romance?
I do enjoy the dynamic between Zim and Hawk. Zim constantly questioning the logistics of how the hell any of this is even supposed to work is pretty humorous. I do enjoy them as a duo. My favorite duo moment is when Zim literally kills him. After which Virooz reveals itself, which I do love Virooz's design, by the way. I love the cyber capillaries and the giant horrible red tentacles. Very cool aesthetic. But before this virus becomes something that could get Zim a way too short prison sentence, he uses the antiviral syringe that Hawk gave him earlier to destroy it. But it turns out Virooz is not just a virus, but also an independent entity. And this whole thing was merely a weirdly convoluted way to leave Zim a series of coordinates from which he should be able to find them. And we're left on the note of Gur accidentally deleting the coordinates, and with that, all of his relevance in the story is shot. The last one felt entirely like setup, but this one just feels completely disconnected from pretty much everything. This one is fun, but also it wouldn't be hard to cut it out of the arc completely. I do prefer the art in this one, though. It's a lot more colorful and visually interesting. While justified given the setting, the art in the last one mostly stuck to a color palette of oranges and reds, but here it's a lot more vibrant and varied. On top of Gur's head just being a much more interesting setting than Factory. Issue 22 was funnier and has less of whatever the hell this is, but this one is more memorable, in part thanks to the unique setting and the neat bits of lore that we get as well. Ultimately, I think that balances this issue out to be around the same level of quality. I think it's pretty decent for what it is. I really like this joke.
But I think it's about time we met the other players in this game. Who are you people?
So as you remember, considering it was about 5 seconds ago, Gur accidentally deleted the coordinates. But it doesn't matter because Zim had an undo button, so I guess the last issue really was like,
We forgot to end on a joke.
So Zim just follows the coordinates like he was going to, which leads him to the most dangerous black market in the galaxy, Cyberflox. Which, the fact that they advertise this place as a black market would defeat the point of it being a black market, but whatever. A black market implies that it's taking place outside of the law, so whose law is it exactly against? Does the larger galaxy have a united legal system? Is it possible that this place actually is perfectly legal for whatever society set it up, but simply specializes in goods typically not legal for other species? Why do I even bother getting up in the morning? Well, I hate to disappoint you, but I unfortunately have no answers for any of these questions. The place is apparently under new management, that of some rando called Fitzu Manga. Sounds like a children's snack. And you can see his face plastered everywhere. The black market is a fun new location, and it's neat to see a lot of new alien designs scattered about. I like a lot of them, especially this guy. Anyway, Zim's plan boils down to boxing out with the landlord and going undercover, and somehow not the worst disguise he's ever used. I do kind of hate it though, dude really thinks he can pull off Vincent Adult Man. I never found any of his comically awful disguises to be particularly funny. I mean, don't get me wrong, he was never good at disguising himself, but at a certain point it just becomes too stupid for me to suspend my disbelief. The janitor costume doesn't fall into this territory necessarily, I was mostly referring to this one, but it's getting dangerously close. This nonsense reminds me of issue 6, where it's like, why are you having Gur pilot you around like this? But it might be even worse here because there's literally no reason to lie about his height. So anyway, he just kind of meanders around, making everyone shoot each other whenever he mentions Virooz because, I don't know, I guess they're just like that. All the crime bosses assume that he's turning them against each other on purpose and ambush him with the intention of curb stomping his corpse after they riddle him with bullet holes. Only for Zim to stall and claim that he actually has discovered Virooz's identity. He just randomly guesses a bunch of people before genuinely putting it together and getting abducted by the real Virooz. Why he waited until Zim put together his identity before tractor beaming him is yet another footnote to add on my list of questions that will never be answered. So yeah, this is Virooz's true form, the Fitzu Manga without an Instagram filter. And considering he's a chronically online billionaire that looks like this, the naked infant he sent Zim through the computer virus is starting to make a disturbing amount of sense. This issue was okay. Admittedly, I'd probably say it's the weakest in the arc so far, even if it does leave us on an interesting-ish cliffhanger. There's nothing really wrong with it, I suppose, but again, it does read like everything that happened here was kind of pointless, considering that Fitzu just abducts him anyway, and none of the stuff that happened at the black market winds up being important at all. It's a bit of a shame because I think a galactic black market is a really cool setting, and I feel it wasn't properly utilized. I don't know what this issue is going for, honestly. It feels like we're just stalling for time to get to part 4. It doesn't really succeed at being a proper mystery at all. It is literally just Zim wandering around asking about Virooz for an entire issue. I mean, it is funny at times, but it does feel a little empty. Anyways, let's see what this arc has all been leading up to once and for all.
SpongeBob, I'm glad you learned your lesson. Hero worship is unhealthy.
We start this issue off with a flashback to Zim during his Invader training. We're introduced to one of his superiors, Elite Commander Pokey. I did a redesign of her once, you should check it out on tumblr.com. She explains the functionality of an Irken pack, which, although this makes sense to explain from a writing perspective since this is important info for the audience to know, considering that it's essential to Fitzu Manga's plan, it is weird that they're acting like this is something that these Irkens don't already know. An Irken pack is essentially an Irken's brain. When being born, they're basically just a lump of organic baby flesh until the pack is attached and they're given life. There was even an unfinished episode of the TV show that played with this concept, 10 Minutes to Doom. Although unfinished episodes shouldn't be considered canon, except for one maybe, but we'll get to that one in the next video. In this episode, it's established that once the pack has been removed, the host body has 10 minutes to reattach it before dying. And during that time, they will slowly deteriorate and become essentially brain dead. Zim's pack actually ends up fusing to Dib's stomach and asserting Zim's brain into Dib's body, and he starts to take on some of Zim's attributes. So in essence, like I said, it's basically their brain. Waiting until you're an adult to learn not to remove your brain is certainly an interesting way to go about things. Not to mention, an Invader is quite the illustrious rank to achieve. Presumably, to even become an Invader in training, you already have to have proven your skill in some way. This is supported by another unfinished episode, The Trial, in which Zim is depicted as both a military scientist and an Irken elite soldier before beginning Invader training. But again, not canon. But even if we disregard The Trial, back in The Nightmare Begins, Tallest Red refers to the Invaders as
the finest examples of military training the Irken Army has to offer. Standing behind us, however, are the soldiers we've chosen for roles in one of the most crucial parts of Operation Impending Doom 2!
So it's not like every Irken becomes an Invader. The idea that they could just be learning about this now, right before a key mission no less, is just utterly absurd. But putting aside my obnoxious nitpicking, I acknowledge that from a writing perspective, this is a pretty natural way to get this information across to the audience. But I don't know, if I were the one writing this, maybe I would have made it like, I don't know. The Dukes have access to this pack-detaching weaponry, and Pokey warns them of the potential dangers of getting their pack detached, hammering in how it is everything they are, and it must be protected at all costs or something. That would also explain why Fitzu felt the need to go to Planet Duke, maybe to fetch one of these pack-detaching devices from one of their old weapon warehouses or something. I feel like that would make more sense than just, don't detach your brains for no reason, this is something I must warn you about, I guess.
Wow, I'm boring! Do I always explain everything like this?
Anyway, Zim is assigned to distract the Dukes with a small explosion, but being Zim, he overcompensates and uses giant bombs instead. But the flashback ends before we can see what happens next. It is at this time that we learn the horrifying truth of who Fitzu Manga really is. An Invader Zim fan.
Zim did wrong.
But he thinks that Zim has gotten way lamer since he arrived on Earth. Valid. So he does what any good fan does and steals his body to make him cool again. And by cool, I mean a slightly more proactive terrorist. He transfers himself into Zim's body, and the pack's emergency reattachment protocol established earlier engages, attaching Zim's pack to Fitzu's gamer chair. So Zim's a chair now, but he doesn't let this get him down, and he finds Fitzu to give him a taste of some good old-fashioned charity. This results in a climactic final fight on the top of a cliff, where Zim is once again told the same thing he's been told his entire life. You're the worst! But he doesn't take that. He is Zim. He is amazing. Anyone who says he's terrible is just too stupid to see it. Oh. And I guess Zim was actually smart enough to bring the pack detacher with him, and he uses it to reclaim his body, becoming Zim once again. This monologue is so interesting to me because it's hard to tell if what Fitzu said actually got to him or not. Because on one hand, the nah right before makes it seem like he really didn't think about it, but he also acknowledges that many people have told him this, so he obviously retained it in some way. To be honest, I don't really think there's a definitive answer for how insecure he really is, because whichever narrative you go for, there are contradictions. You know, this is most definitely a result of Invader Zim being a comedy, and what the writers think is funny being prioritized first and foremost. But I kinda like that he's inconsistent like that. It's funny and more relatable that he's completely blindly confident some days and cripplingly anxious the next. He just has anxiety days. But what's extra relatable is that after this harrowing adventure, he comes out of it having learned nothing and being the exact same as he always has been. And I get that the antimatter space hippo is supposed to be a joke about how lame he is, but hippos are actually terrifying, and antimatter would probably also be terrifying if I could understand any of this. I know I spent this entire section complaining, but I actually like this one quite a bit. I thought it was a decent payoff to all the setup. I think it's really fun. So that was our first 4-part story arc. And I have some thoughts. Individually, they're not all that bad at all, but my main problem is how disorganized it all feels. When presented as a full package, it doesn't really feel like a complete story. I think it could have benefited from some through lines that carry between issues, like character-wise. Zim's resolve to keep being himself could have been much more impactful if there were underlying themes related to his character running throughout the story. Focusing on all of Zim's failures in his past would have not only been interesting, but also would have been really funny for the climax to just be him changing nothing and continuing to be the same as he always has been. And I think the settings we explore throughout this arc actually could have lent themselves to that narrative really well. I mean, think about it. We start off with one of his generic failed plans, and then he has to travel into Gur's mind, essentially a symbol for how little faith the tallest have in him. Not to mention all that stuff that I mentioned about Gur earlier, and how even he thinks lowly of Zim. Even Cyberflox is an intimidating setting that highlights how small Zim is in the face of a larger galaxy, with all the crime bosses teaming up to kill him for upsetting the balance. Not to mention a versatile location in space like this could have easily been tied into Zim's past, whether through the location itself or through any of the many patrons. It's unfortunate that all of these settings had to be part of this arc as it is, because they're so disconnected, but yet all the ends have to fit together. So a lot of interesting ideas feel like they're wasted and robbed of their own interesting conclusions, so they can just lead on to the next issue. Even though this contradicts what I said the arc scores would be overall in part 1, consider I don't care. I'm giving this arc overall a lower score than any of the individual issues that it's composed of. There's nothing particularly offensive about this arc, necessarily, but it just had so much potential, and I feel it was kind of wasted, even if it was an overall entertaining experience.
Wait a minute.
Do I even have to say anything? This might just be the ugliest art style yet. Yet! And not in the cool ugly way like Invader Zim usually is. This is what I like to call dumb ugly. Even the Casey green one looks better to me. And this issue is focused on Gur. We really have a winning combo here, guys. But here's where this issue surprised me, because shockingly, I actually really liked it. Even the art has its good moments with a few panels I actually think look good. So Gur disguises himself as a human and goes to school because he misses Zim. Ignore all of the stuff that I said about Gur earlier. Unlike Zim, Gur is a social butterfly and makes friends with everyone, instantly becoming incredibly popular. The children even use Gur as a confidant for all of their secrets. Zim is initially pissed that Gur came to school and almost blew his cover, but when he hears that the secrets of the school children are inside of Gur's memory chip, he becomes immediately enamored with what those secrets could be and how valuable they will no doubt be to his crusade against the human race. The unfortunate part is that Gur noticed that Dib was spying on him, and to protect the secrets, he buried his memory chip in the yard and basically created a labyrinth of deformed underground caverns. And of course, he doesn't remember where it is because it was his memory chip. It's kind of hard to describe the plot of this one because it's really tightly done, actually, and it's basically just like one joke leading to the next, which progresses the plot forward. Actually, kind of reminds me of early SpongeBob writing. There are a lot of really funny character moments in this one. It's actually a very pleasant read. Also, it's really funny how excited Zim is to get his hands on these secrets, only to immediately regret it when Gur starts listing them off. It was a predictable outcome, but I don't care. There is a bit of a continuity error, however, where Zim enters the labyrinth in his human disguise, gets his eyes and lenses burnt off when Dib shoots him in the face with Gur's muffin shooter, and then when the muffin tidal wave breaks through the floor of the classroom, Zim's lenses are just magically back now. And yes, those were all words that I just said. Unfortunately, the art style does drag it down quite a bit. For every panel that I genuinely like, there are like 5 that I think look absolutely awful. Again, the art isn't like objectively bad, and it serves the story decently enough, but man, I am not a fan of the style. It just has such an air of awkwardness to it. I don't know, it's hard to articulate. Anyways, this one still managed to be pretty good despite that, though. Also, the generic popular girl character is gay, so do with that what you will, I suppose.
Getting kind of bored.
I love this art style so much. I cannot express how much I love it. Like, it is just so clean and expressive and perfect and marryable. Easily my favorite art style so far. This is sort of like the opposite of the last one, where rather than the art style dragging it down, the art style in this one elevates it a ton. Oh, I love it so much. It is so good. The plot is pretty basic, though. Zim is looking for deposits of splodium for his latest plan, only to find out that the owner of the nearest deposit is a Duxisi. You know, they really do like to get sadistic with these names when they don't have to say them out loud. The most boring race in the galaxy. So this guy torments Zim with his boringness as he tries to sit through it all so he can get the deposit. And also not get his brains blown out. Again, very simple. But I find this one to be really funny. Like I said, the art really elevates it. I love the design of the boring alien. He's both goofy and terrifying at the same time, and it's just great. I love his flesh noodle mustache, and all of his expressions are pure gold. A friend of mine referred to him as Squibbly Jimbo, which, sure, that's just his name now. Take note of that, ZimWiki. Zim is a lot more subdued in this one, and it's a nice change of pace. Like, it's still undeniably him, but I don't know, I guess it's just nice to not have him screaming every line. This one is just pleasant and humorous. The payoff is kind of lame, but this series never was really known for its strong endings. This one is simple, but I like it quite a bit. These exchanges made me laugh out loud.
$20? But I haven't been gone that long.
There's a time warp thing involved. I don't know.
You know, I kept putting off working on the script when I saw that this one was coming up next because I didn't want to read it again. So you can blame this issue for this video taking so long to come out. Well, that and tendinitis. And dogs. And depression. So yeah, this one's great. I wasn't expecting the throne for a worst art style to be usurped so soon, but here we are. It's less radically different than issue 26, but at least that one was different and bizarre enough that it could be funny. This art style just pisses me off. I fail to articulate why, but oh, it makes me so mad. Okay, in all fairness, I guess I do like the colors, I guess. Please bear with me, I really don't feel like being nice to this one. The premise for this issue is actually pretty interesting. So there's this crew of Irken scientists that were using a supposedly vacant moon as a base for their time acceleration research. Note that I said supposedly vacant. So this colony of scary space worms pulled their base underground, and thanks to a malfunction in the time acceleration device, time is passing for them at an unbelievably fast rate compared to the outside world, making their attempts to radio for backup completely unintelligible. Only one member of the team managed to escape, and when he tries to alert the tallest to the situation, naturally they don't care. So they decide to send Zim to help them out. This issue is fine enough when we're actually focusing on the time warping premise, like how it's taken 37 years in their time for Commander Thien to tell the tallest what's happened. Like, that's really, I don't want to say cool, but it's interesting, and it really raises the stakes, and there's some good visual representation for all of the time manipulation going on. Where the story trips and punctures its knee on a spontaneous heap of broken glass is in Zim's characterization. It reminds me quite a bit of issue 13, where he's just too unlikable to be entertaining. However, he is somehow worse in this one, or at least more annoying, and certainly more out of character. I guess because it's been 37 years, they somehow think that Zim is their commander that left to find help. Where he is during all of this, I couldn't tell you. But anyway, they think Zim is their leader, and they want him to come up with a plan to help them retrieve their time device the worm stole for, some reason. Dude, I've reread this issue more times than I ever wanted to, trying to put together what this thing even is, or how it works, but they literally call it the time thingy. They are not making this easy. So naturally, Zim makes a bunch of unreasonable demands that take them literal years to complete, since they have to ration their only food source and make do with that one material for construction. And he just uses his little time shield so that what takes them years and years and years only takes him a couple of minutes. He makes so many stupid demands that all of the crew just wind up aging out trying to complete them all. Zim is a lot of things, many of them bad, but one thing he isn't is lazy, usually. He's very proactive. The only reason he never gets anything done is because he always sweats the small stuff and puts way too much effort into simple tasks. So when jokes are made about Zim being a selfish, lazy jackass, they always read as incredibly out of character to me. It just feels like they'll just assign him any negative character trait and assume it's accurate. I'm always hesitant to say Zim is out of character in these because he's an inherently inconsistent character even within the source material, but this is one of those times where I'm actually comfortable saying that he definitely is. Every other time he's had people under his command, he's always struggled and just been like very awkward because it's not a role that he actually knows how to fill. Zim abusing his authority to be pampered is just not something he would do. And considering the stupid time device was literally in an area within eyeshot, I do wonder why these idiots even put up with this nonsense instead of risking the chance to go and look for the device. I mean, when the crew became too old to even do anything properly, Zim just went to go and get the device himself, and it wasn't even that hard. Like, yeah, I guess he got chased a bit, but I'd say that's preferable to rationing your food for 12 years just to build a stupid statue. Anyway, I kind of struggle to properly articulate why I hate this one so much. I mean, I guess it really is just as simple as Zim is our central character for this story, so because he's insufferable the whole way through, the entire comic is a miserable experience. The tallest act like literal toddlers in this one. It's insufferable. But that's kind of an insult. That's kind of insulting to toddlers.
It starts with sorry.
Damn it, I accidentally deleted my notes on this one. Right, anyway, we have another two-parter. Although this one certainly doesn't deserve to be. We got Maddie C returning again with their absolutely brilliant art style, but this time it's a Dib solo adventure. So this issue seems to think that saying poop 5,000 times counts as comedy. So there's this brand in the show that makes soda and candy and stuff that's literally called Poop. It's hilarious, I assure you. They also have a mascot called Poop Dog because, okay, he's actually funny.
I can't do this. Cut!
The episode that features this brand most prominently is actually one of my favorites. Not because of the stupid brand name, but just because there's a kids show that has a scene dedicated to an old woman choking to death on sawdust.
That's the sawdust.
Oh, also, I've never seen anyone address this, but Poop Dog is just randomly spying on Zim by creeping outside someone's house and it's never explained. Also, tuna?
As a consolation, here's some tuna.
Sorry, I digress. I am doing anything I can to avoid talking about this one because it's just really stupid and boring. So Dib spills Gaz's special bottle of limited edition dark poop soda. and he's given an ultimatum between searching every store in the city for an incredibly rare soda or apologizing to his sister. So after searching every store in the city, he finally manages to find some, but then it gets stolen by some evil soda wizard, and Dib gets dragged into helping the good soda wizards that get their magic by drinking the fabric of reality contained within each bottle and burping magic. Sorry, can someone please remind me what it is I'm doing with my life? Is that a reference to the Szechuan sauce thing from Rick and Morty?
I want Szechuan sauce. Where's my Szechuan sauce? I pickle Rick! What below the dog?
Right. So that evil wizard is gonna use the dark poop flavor to, like, summon Poop Thulu, who's like Poop Dog, but Cthulhu, which brings the total number of Cthulhu variants in this comic series to 2, and our total number of Cthulhu variants in good issues to 0. So, like, because Dib has touched the special limited edition soda, this means he can, like, track it down with his mind or whatever. So he drinks the, stupid Foresight soda combination, and it reveals that the true key is Zim, because he's the one that bought the excess supply because it's the only thing that can clean his ship or whatever. And we're left on that epic cliffhanger. So yeah, this one is lame, and I don't care that Dib is constantly talking about how stupid it is either. Like, yeah, I know. That's one of the things I appreciate about Invader Zim, stupidity with confidence. Dib calling out things because it's within his character is one thing, but here it actively feels like they're embarrassed by their own story. Or maybe it's just me projecting because I'm embarrassed by the story. I mean, I guess it's not all bad. I think Dib saying he's on message boards is funny, and the Rick and Morty reference caught me off guard. Why are you surprised that Dib knows where to find it? He literally just told you earlier. Sorry guys, I'm at the end of my rope. Why is this a two-parter? And suddenly, Dib is acting like he put this together using clues and not literal divine revelation like what the last issue left us off on? Shut up! I am losing my mind. I feel like my brain is being ground up in a McDonald's pink slime. Oh, hey, it's the Nightmare helmet from Door to Door. That's pretty neat. What I will say is that this part is at least a little better than the first one because some of Zim's interactions with Dib are kind of funny. I like how Zim assumed that Dib was terrified of sandwiches for some reason. Actually, maybe there is some substance to that claim. So this issue is literally just Dib trying to get the stuff from Zim, and eventually Zim gets bored with Dib and he just gets the soda. But then it doesn't matter because Dib got there too late anyway, and now all of the soda wizards are dead.
Comically large sandwich.
Also, why did they forget how to draw gas? How is this a two-part story? I am losing my mind. Hey, Casey Green is back. Well, my pain never ends. Okay, in all fairness, this one is significantly better than the last few. Again, I don't care for the art style, but the flow of movement is genuinely fantastic, and it's worth appreciating. What the actual hell is this title, though? So we get to see the swollen eyeball again. I haven't mentioned them up until this point, even though they have made appearances, but I figure I might as well bring them up now. The Swollen Eyeball Network is a paranormal investigation group consisting of a bunch of adults, and Dib. And they each have code names. Dib is Agent Mothman, and the most frequently shown member is called Agent Darkbooty. No, don't question the name. He's just an old man that likes to talk to a 12-year-old boy in his spare time. They even meet up in person in Battle of the Planets, and he takes Dib inside the janitor's closet. I always assumed he was the leader, but it's never actually said that this is the case. Maybe they're all just equally in charge, and also Dib is there. Anyway, none of that exposition was necessary since they barely do anything in this story, but consider that I like hearing the sound of my own voice. So Dib finds this mutated bird. It escapes and he follows it back to this old abandoned carnival, where it's revealed that animals are being mutated by green apple ice cream with actual gamma radiation as an ingredient. The plot is simple, but this one is carried mostly by the gags. A good portion of them are funny, but some of them just take me out of it. I genuinely cannot imagine Dib saying, "Whoa, mama." Casey Green's way of drawing the characters has drastically changed from last time, and it's definitely for the better. I don't love the art style, but it's very effective and definitely less distracting than 7.5. I was so confused by this panel because I thought that was like a ring of flesh over his hair somehow, but it turns out I'm actually just stupid, and this is just the bell from that tester strength thingy he got shot through. This one's got a lot of slapstick and it's pretty good. Not really the sort of stuff you come to Invader Zim for, but this one is still decent enough. I'm surprised I liked it as much as I did. Although maybe it's just because the last few have sucked so hard. Let's hope we've finally gotten out of this rut. We haven't. Fine, I'll talk about it, because we all know this video just has to be longer. This is a descriptor I try to avoid using, but I can't avoid it anymore. This issue is cringe. Genuinely. I read through it as fast as possible because I was just embarrassed reading it. Also, the art sucks. They really had the nerve to have Maddie C do the cover and then backhand me with this? Genuinely, what are some of these panels? It's just different enough from the actual art style to piss me off. It's like they took Invader Zim and sucked all the style out of it. Let it be known that all of the points this issue gets is because of this one scene, because it actually made me laugh. But the rest of it is just incredibly painful. I'm sure other people might find this the funny kind of stupid, which is valid, I suppose, but me personally, I just find it incredibly embarrassing. Right, so the plot is like, it's just Zim and Dib attaching artificial muscles to themselves to win some stupid phys ed competition because the winner gets a medal from President Man and Zim wants to disintegrate his head. But like, in front of everyone, wouldn't that kind of blow his cover? At that rate, couldn't he just show up to the event and shoot him, like, Kennedy style? Like, dude. I guess the joke is that they're obviously cheating and no one calls them on it, but consider I'm too busy receding into my body like a turtle to laugh at that. Guys, I do not know how much more of this I can take. Can we just get this over with?
The weenie tempts you!
This is my favorite comic so far. No, I'm not joking, I love this one. The art style is adorable, the characterization is on point, and it's just really funny. After all of the stupid garbage I've waded through, finally there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Saying poop over and over again, that's lame. But saying wiener over and over again, now that is peak comedy. Okay, I'm joking, that's not why I like this one, I swear. So some oppressive capitalistic regime called Conglamo hosts an event at the school where the children try to come up with an idea for a new product, and the winning invention will be mass distributed across the country. Naturally, Zim takes advantage of this, since getting an object of his creation sold en masse by a huge company to everyone in the country is ripe with world-conquering potential. So of course, he immediately tells Dib his plan, and Dib decides to create a better invention to stop Zim from winning. I like how his invention sucks, because he had no idea what he was even making throughout the entire process. Turns out, aiming to win without actually having any ideas doesn't usually work out. Because Dib's a miserable failure loser, his dad doesn't love it. Zim is declared the winner. But there's a catch. We never actually got to see Zim's invention because Gur got rid of it and replaced it with his collection of wieners. And because Conglamatron had all 20 of her CEO brains fried by Dib's invention, she thinks that this wiener display is genius. Yes, she is just a robot filled with CEO brains. I like her a lot, actually. I think that's a hilarious concept. But yeah, because of brain damage, she thinks the wieners are genius. Despite Zim clearly being confused, Dib somehow thinks that this is actually Zim's invention, and is absolutely baffled as to how Zim is going to conquer the Earth with these. Zim goes along with it and claims that he does indeed have some genius plan. So this issue is basically just Zim and Dib going insane, with Dib trying to figure out how Zim is going to conquer the Earth with the wieners, and Zim trying to figure out the exact same thing. It's nothing too complex, but I still love this one a ton. I actually laughed harder at this exchange than any scene in any of these comics so far. It just hits the perfect notes of absurdity to me, I can't even fathom. Eventually though, Dib finally manages to put it together. You thought you could beat me, didn't you? But I figured it out! I cracked it! I know exactly what you're planning here! The whole genius scam! The wieners defy explanation, but they also captivate the mind. The combination of shape and color is perfectly designed to trigger subconscious obsession. And the combination of a human face and a processed meat product clouds the perception of the separation of animal and man. The wieners repulse, they entice, they create powerful emotions that can't be resisted. But the feeling is transient. The wieners biodegrade. They have to be replaced with new wiener faces again and again and again! The economy collapses in a torrent of wiener-based spending! The human mind erodes to its most base instincts! And when humanity has been weakened and made vulnerable like never before by this wiener infestation, that's when you strike. That's it, isn't it? Isn't it? Yes! Of course Dib is entirely wrong, and the corporation just instantly goes bankrupt, which is hilarious. It's really not that complicated. I don't need a Dib-style flowchart to explain why I like this one. I just think it's really cute and funny. Genuinely my favorite issue so far. Talk about whiplash. Well, at least we managed to end on a high note. I hate to say it, but I think the comics are starting to decrease in general quality, which sucks because the last part had so many good ones. But this group had like almost half of them I genuinely hated, and only one of them I'd say is outright great. You had our first 4-part story arc, which was neat, I guess, but after that they sort of just fall into whatever. We had much more upsets in the art style than usual, which was good for the most part. It's like a bag of Halloween candy, with razor blades hidden inside. Anyways, thank you for suffering along with me and putting up with the annoying sound of my voice for so long. These videos haven't been doing like big views or anything, but genuinely it makes my day when even one person engages with the stuff I make, so honestly, thank you. And although I won't be seeing you, I certainly hope you return and continue to hear me next time. I hope to get the next part out in a more timely fashion than this one. That would give me 11 months?